We are going to talk about a movie.
This is gonna be a disaster.
It was one of the best movies of the year.
It's gonna go so well. Probably one of the last movies I would ever want to see in a theater. What is going on, everybody? Taylor and
Jacob.
here, and we are finally going to sit down and talk about Avengers Endgame. This is going to be a full-blown spoiler discussion because there is so much to talk about that I really want to talk about with you, and that I really want to put out there so that we can discuss it with other people, because there's so much
to talk about.
So much, and we are a couple days late on getting this up just because I wanted to do this right after we saw it, but this is also coincidentally the weekend that we moved into a new place.
As you can see.
So it's been a little bit hectic, and this was really the only time we could sit down and really do this. So you want to just jump into it?
Yeah, and the good thing is it also gave us time to be able to go see it again.
We did get to go see it twice in that time, yes, which is really, really good, I think, to be able to discuss this where you're not just going on the hype of seeing it for the very first time. So that was great. And it was a movie that I really did want to see a second time immediately. For me, this movie was very different than how I reacted to Infinity War. Because when I saw Infinity War with you for the first time, I really, really enjoyed it. But I needed a little while to sit and process before I wanted to go see it again. With this one, I left and I was like, I really, really want to see this one again.
We left and we were like, so we're just going to go to the 6:30 one?
Yeah, we're just going to go into the next one.
Go to the next screening?
But I think that we should start off with the fact that this movie opens perfectly.
I really do think that the opening of this film is wonderful in terms of it smartly reintroduces you back into this is what happened.
Yeah.
So for those of you who only say, like, you know, the people who only see the Marvel films once in theaters when they're out and they never really do the rewatch thing, it will instantly remind you, oh, right, snap happened.
It's great for casual audiences, like what you're talking about, where people just kind of go see it because they like to go see the big movies that are out. And it's also great for the really, really intense fans like us who look at it and go, oh man, this is still really impactful, even though we saw all of the destruction in Infinity War. Yeah. That is just such an emotional moment of reminding you where we're at, but also giving you something with a character dealing with it that we haven't seen yet. Yeah.
And I thought that was a very smart way to do it, where you're not telling the same thing twice. Right. You're showing something different. From there, we cut to basically Tony in space, which I really enjoyed that. I thought that was smartly done. We got some moments of Tony and Nebula in space together. Him trying to basically teach us some human games.
It was very Tony in the sense that he knows there's that sense of impending doom, but he's still trying to kind of lighten the mood, still trying to do something with the time that they have. Yeah. And it was a great moment, I think, for Nebula too, because we don't really see a lot of humanity in her, just because of the way she's built, what she's been through, how she's not really human in a lot of ways. And it was a great moment to see Tony trying to connect with her somehow. So that was really, really good. And I think it's another one of those situations where it isn't telling you the same thing over again, but it's showing you this is where we left off, and this is the gravity of what the situation still is.
Yes. And I did really enjoy that. And then obviously we end with him giving the message for Pepper.
I know. That
was really beautifully done. I thought, that's the type of message Tony would send then. And the whole beginning part was very much for me just getting back into the swing of it. And, okay, this is where our characters are and this is what they're up to. And this is... I really enjoyed that. Captain Marvel coming in and saving Tony was really good use of her.
Yeah, I think so too.
I wasn't and this goes to something that you and I were talking about. I wasn't expecting the film to completely not show the post-credit scene from Captain Marvel.
I don't know if I was expecting them to use that scene. Like, I thought they might, because it is one of those moments where you see her show up and you see everyone kind of interact with this new character they don't really know, which I think could have been interesting. But I was really surprised to see that we just jump right into them knowing who she is. They've obviously had interaction with her before, even though they clearly don't know her well yet. Yeah. But they didn't really waste any time with...
Well, yeah, thinking on it, there's two sides of that where you're like, oh, I would have loved to have seen the, how does Cap and all them deal with her? But at the same time, you're like, realistically, Cap and them, they would have been like, Fury trusted her, we have to trust her.
Right. And as cool as it would have been to have that moment, this movie has so many stakes that are way higher than that you can't really justify showing us that when we do have that post-credit scene at least showing us that she shows up and this is what happens and okay, now we're moving on. Yeah. I really, really appreciated that moment with Cap and Tony as soon as he gets back. Yes. When Tony is like, I lost the kid. And Steve is like, we lost. Yeah, well, he goes, I couldn't stop him, neither could we. And we all lost. And on the second viewing, I know Tony's freaking out that Pepper's also dead. And he's like, is Pepper? And then Pepper comes in and sees it. And I did love that moment. I thought that was really well done. And then Tony's outburst, where the pent up rage that he must have been feeling that week in space of, I knew this would happen. I had a plan to try and save us from this. Yeah.
And we weren't a team, and that's why. And I really loved that came out in Tony, and that you really felt that, he does have this rage and this anger.
He would, and even though he's obviously very defeated and he would have been thinking about the guilt of feeling like he hadn't done enough, especially with Peter being gone. But then he absolutely would. He would have all that time and space to think about everything and to think about how he had this plan and how they as a team just couldn't get together to do it and no one could agree on it. And he feels like if they would have, this wouldn't have happened. And we don't actually know if that would have helped anything. But in his mind, it's we had a chance to try to do something.
I loved the interaction there where Steve was just, he couldn't say anything. His the answer of like, we do this together. No, we didn't. And I thought Chris Evans really played that well, and you really saw in his face the hurt and anger at himself, I guess is the word I'm trying to say. Like, he was angry with how he has, I guess, behaved over the last 2 years.
I don't know if that's quite the right word. I feel like maybe it's more of a frustration because that situation in itself, with what they've gone through over the last couple years, would be so tough, especially for someone who has a moral compass like Captain America does, where when he obviously has beliefs on how things should work that differ very much from Tony, as we've seen. And so it would have to be this inner turmoil of, he's right, we should have probably tried, but also having that feeling of, like, you have to stick to some extent, you have to stick to what you believe with. So that has to just be all kinds of inner, like...
So I did really enjoy all that interaction. I thought was really well handled. Then Tony obviously collapsing, and then they go, all right, we need to find Thanos, and they do.
I love that it's very much like, I love how direct Carol is. Yes. She's like, okay, we need to go find him. I'm going to go find him. She's not worried about the, let's discuss this, let's talk about it. She's like, no, we're going to go find him. And I also love very much that it's very balanced in terms of them as a group who know each other very well being like, we don't know you very well, but we want to work with you, but also you haven't been around.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, one of my favorite parts of the film, because I just think it was beautifully handled, was when she says, there are so many other planets out there dealing with what Earth is dealing with, and they don't have Avengers.
Yeah.
They don't have people like you that are fixing things, and I have to go to these planets.
And what I loved more about that moment is she gives that line, and it's cool, and they just accept it, and they go,
okay,
yep, that
enough.
makes sense. That makes sense. And they move on. There's none of this little. At this point in time, it wouldn't make sense for the infighting, and I really love that the movie didn't do infighting.
Well, and this brings me back to what we've been talking about with Game of Thrones, where it's like when you have stakes that are at a certain point, you just don't have time for it. You have to put aside those little
And I thought this film did that extremely well.
I thought so too. And it only really holds fast to it when it needs to.
Yeah.
Like with Tony, when he's angry about it. Yeah. And even then, everyone else just kind of...
But what I love with the Tony thing is when he first sees Steve, there isn't the anger. It's when it's later when they sit down and they're talking about it. That's when the anger boils back up. It's not in the moment.
It's not petty. I don't want to talk to you at all.
Yeah, I thought it handled the drama and the I guess the pent up rage and all. I thought that was handled incredibly well. I really thoroughly enjoyed that.
I really think that even through some of the missteps with some of the Iron Man movies, I think they've always really handled Tony's PTSD elements as a character very well. When he's traumatized and when he's dealing with things, you can just tell where he's coming from and what he's going through and why he lashes out about the things he lashes out about, especially in this movie. And then we see Nebula, and she's like, don't even bother, I know exactly where he is. Yeah. Which makes so much sense because in this particular situation, it's not just an easy way of jumping to, we'll cut time finding him. It's no, she has sat in his ship while he has talked about this to his daughter when she was extremely loyal to him, built to be loyal to him, and she knows exactly where he would go because it's always been the same place.
And it's, to me, and what I love is that they actually really show, hey, the people who survived the snap survived for a reason. Like in terms of storytelling wise.
As a storytelling device.
They survived for a reason. And I thought, when we're sitting there going, why do these people survive? It's because they had to be in this film. These people all had to be in this film. From there we go into space,
and that was one of my favorite.
That was a great line. That was Rocket's line of how many people here have been to space and have never been to space, and
half of them raised their hand.
Rhodey, Black Widow, and Cap raised their hand, and I thought
and he's
that
just
was
like, don't throw up in my ship.
I thought that was really well. That was a really great moment, and then they get there, and Thanos he's done.
Which was interesting because when Carol says she's going to go down for recon, you have no idea what she's going to find or not going to find. And when you realize it's just him alone on this planet.
But what I love is Nebula's thing of, and that's enough. Yeah. Where it's just him. And it really sets up this... I don't know what I was expecting, but I was expecting something else. And I'm glad that I didn't get it.
Yeah,
if that's
no,
I'm not trying to. I'm not exactly sure what I'm meant to say here, but
no, and I get what you mean because that's for the first hour of this movie. That's very much the experience I had. Was everything I'm seeing is not what I expected. Yeah, but I'm not angry about it or upset about it or bothered by it. It's more. It was a very nice surprise for me, which was really really good. But it was when we get that shot of him just picking out produce for dinner, and he's just alone in his little cabin, and then the camera pans and you see that he's burned, that he's been damaged, and something has happened to him since the last time we saw him.
My first thought was it's spread. That, like, it wasn't... That I at first just thought I didn't realize I didn't think he'd... well, I knew he'd used them again, but I didn't think that it was... I didn't think he'd destroyed...
I didn't think that either. No, okay. I didn't think he had destroyed them, but obviously it was something post what we had already seen with him that had happened, is what I'm saying. The last time we saw him, he didn't look like that.
No, God no. I thought it had just spread, but yeah, that was why I was... Yeah, that was my first initial thought. And then we see that I thought the plan of how to get the gauntlet was smart. Like, they had her come in, stop him.
Yeah.
Bruce comes from the bottom. I thought that was really well done, and then Thor comes in and slices off his hand.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of a shocking moment to process, because in the Infinity War it took them so much just to subdue him, and at this point he basically is letting them cut off his arm, because you never would have been able to get that close before to doing anything like that. And the fact that his hand comes off should tell you that the stones aren't there.
Yeah.
And when they realize that the stones aren't there, that's a moment that I wasn't expecting either. I wasn't never expecting him to not have the stones anymore. That's not an expectation that I went into the movie with. And another line that I really appreciated from Nebula was, "My father is a lot of things, but he's not a liar." And we've seen that. We've seen that in previous movies, that he is a lot of very despicable things, but a liar is not one of them. And he tells Gamora, you know...
And and especially we saw that in the scene. Like, I thought the way these movies have characterized Thanos is incredible.
I think so too.
You really do get a sense of the things that he is willing to do and the things he will not do, and who does he love, who does he not love, who does he like,
and how does he show love compared to what we're used to.
Exactly. And that's what I really loved about that scene, was because that was Thanos. Like, it was the same Thanos that we met in Infinity War, and they did that incredibly well. And it wasn't like this was, and we'll get to it later, but the 2014 Thanos, like, it making sense, obviously, that was a very different Thanos,
right.
And it makes sense that it is, but that was a very different one to where we are now.
Are with now, yeah. But then, one of my absolute favorite, most shocking moments that really hit me emotionally in a way that I wasn't ready for was the title card coming up saying 5 years later.
No, well... I
was never expecting a time jump that big.
No, I wasn't expecting 5 years. Now, you and I talked after Captain Marvel, and I said, I reckon there's a 1 year time jump. Yeah. Like, I thought 1 year. Because I thought, we'll line it up with 2018 to 2019. Like, right. I thought we'll go a 1 year time jump, and that will be... And, I correctly predicted the scene of Ant-Man coming home, because it will be he comes back, and that's he's back. Oh my god, everyone's back, and but I never expected 5 years.
No, me neither. And that was a moment where it took me a moment to go, oh wow, we're gonna see a very changed world, because 5 years is a long time to have realized that no one has come back. They haven't found a way to bring anyone back yet, and it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's just that really hit me. And there's a scene that to me really embodies what it would be like to live in a world dealing with something like that, and also really emphasizes what we already know about Steve Rogers and who he is as a person. And it's a scene that is very simple and it's very casual, but to me it made the movie really grounded in a reality that a lot of people I think can relate to, because it was a support group.
Yep.
And it was dealing with the struggle of going out and meeting new people, of dating, of trying to move on from a tremendous tragedy. And even though we've never dealt with anything like Thanos, there are people in the world who can relate to having to get support because of tragedies in their life and trying to find ways to move on. And having that in a movie with something of this scale where half of your world has disappeared, it was so interesting to me.
I really like, and that's where I kind of was like, part of me was like, I would love to sit in this world.
Yeah.
For like, I would have loved to have just, no, let's stay here for a movie or something. Like, I wish, like, part of me wishes there was a movie between these two where they're like, not Captain Marvel went massively back, but like something in here, like a, you know, one of the adventures that these characters go on.
Right. Well, you can even take this scene with Cap and go from there of like, how do people try to move on? What's different? Like when they were talking and they're like, we cried during our date because we couldn't, we were just, all we could talk about was that we missed what the world used to be. And it was just so fascinating.
I was very fascinated with that. I thought that scene was really handled well.
And it really calls back to Cap's entire arc too and he brings it up of, I'm still trying to move on from losing the world that I was born into, that I grew up in. And he hasn't even been able to really move on from that yet. No. And now he has this that he also has to try and move on from, which is just, I just loved it. I know that it's probably not everyone's favorite scene, and it's not my favorite scene, but I just thought it was such a nice touch to really ground a movie that is so large scale, so grandiose, so just like galactically insane.
It is a really wonderful hit done scene. From there we move back to Avengers facility, I guess.
Headquarters,
whatever they call it. Where Black Widow is really taking the Nick Fury role, where she is in control. I liked the touch of her using the High Council's. I liked that touch. I thought that was clever. And no, this is what the High Council should have been
like.
And I did like that.
I thought it was interesting that she's trying to take on that role, and I think that she was really good at it. But as she's talking to them, there's just nothing for them to do.
No.
They're like, there was an underwater volcano. What did we do about it? You can't do anything about it. And
there isn't threats.
There's just nothing for her to delegate. No, there's no real Nick Fury role for her to have in this world that they are living in now, which she's clearly very affected by, that she's trying to move on and she's trying to find a role that she can fit into in this world, and it's just not quite clicking.
And also one of my favorite lines in the entire movie comes here, and it's when Cap says there were whales in the Hudson. And that to me speaks to the absolute truth of where Thanos's goal worked. For what he wanted to do, it worked. Now, it worked for what he wanted to do. It technically worked. It was
cleaner waters, less boats.
I mean, it was still genocide, and clearly there's people.
Clearly there are horrible bad effects as well. But it was that moment of, for what he as an individual was trying to accomplish. It worked.
It did work. It's just, and it gets to the heart of the later Thanos is, where he says, because people still hold on to the original one, they'll never be able to move on. Because people
remember what was, they can never accept what could be.
And I did really like that bit. And then Black Widow's line of, if you're going to say,
look at the bright side, and you're going to end up with a peanut butter sandwich in the face.
I did really like that.
And I loved his line of, I would cook you dinner, but you look miserable enough already.
I thought that was good.
I love how much their friendship has evolved in these movies. That is something that I think has been done so beautifully, because in this movie especially, even just in their little interactions, because there aren't a ton of them, but you just can see that they've spent time together, that they have known each other, that they care, like they're such good friends that they are just trying to check in with each other and trying to comfort each other in this time, because it's just little tiny character moments, but you know, they spent a whole movie together in Winter Soldier, and they've been together in the Avengers movies, and they do have this friendship that
and they were between Civil War and Infinity War. Like,
well, that's what I mean. Like they've had all this time together, and even though they were kind of reluctant friends at the beginning, you can tell that they've become so close, and I just thought that was another... I think this movie does that so well. It gives you those scenes that just ground it. That really, really ground it in a world that we understand, with situations that we can really emotionally connect to, like that one.
Yeah, and that one I thought was really well done. Then obviously we moved to Ant-Man Returning, where it cuts to San Francisco. Ant-Man comes back. The realization that, like, where he has no idea. I love the shot of the kid, where the kid just looks back and goes, what do you mean?
Like, he doesn't even know how to respond to something like that.
And he just keeps riding his bike because he's just, like... I really loved that. And then where Scott sees the memorial. The memorial I thought was really well done. Obviously, he finds his name.
And he just was like, what the hell? Like, that confuses him even more, basically. And this is something I didn't even think about. Because I was still so wrapped up in everything. But I didn't even think about the fact that Cassie would have grown up 5 years.
And that's what and when he goes to find Cassie, and Cassie's grown up. And
that really hit me hard.
I loved that moment, because it was, he hasn't been there for 5 years, and it was to him, that was the real representation of, it's been 5 years. And
it was a great visual representation of that.
So I did really love that moment. From there, he obviously goes back to Avengers HQ, and we get the first real discussion of, we can time travel.
Time heist.
Let's do the time heist. And I thought, and we'll get there.
I love how it's presented, where he's like, I know this is insane, but if it's even, like, if there's anything you can take from this crazy rambling that I have, like... I just, it's on my mind, and if there's anything that we can possibly do to bring people back or to fix this, it's like, we'll get more into that discussion in a bit.
Well, because then, I really did enjoy that, and obviously you get Steve's and Natasha's reaction to he's back, and then I liked the disappointment you could see in Steve's face when it cut to, no, I've just been in a I know I was stuck in the quantum, and he was like, oh. Like, there was that little bit of disappointment of, like, great, it's only just one. Like, it's not, we can't bring everyone. And I appreciated that, and obviously the discussion, but then we moved to, we know someone who could possibly build a time machine. Yeah.
Like, if anyone's gonna do it.
Yeah. This movie, to me, is more Tony Stark's movie than it is Steve Rogers'. Slightly, and it's because and the reason I say that is because of this scene, the typical 3-act hero structure starts here for him.
I agree with that, and I also think this movie gives us a reason why Tony has more stakes.
Yeah, and obviously he has a daughter,
which he has a daughter now.
Yeah, and I noticed this more on the second viewing, how Pepper has changed.
Yeah.
Having where Pepper has really seen that Tony was right. That there was a reason Tony was constantly... that he had this fear that something would come. And I think I really enjoyed Pepper in this movie, because she wasn't she was a lot more understanding of his compulsive need to fix and to protect the world. And I really think that was illustrated very well in the scene of him figuring out, I can time travel.
First of all, I think that it's a great a great representation of their relationship and what it has been when he's just like, oh, I figured it out. And she's like, just so we're on the same page. And he's like, oh, time travel. And she's like, oh, right, of course, cool.
Okay.
Like, that's terrifying, but all right. And then I love that one of my favorite things that scene is just so beautiful because it's him saying, I figured this out and I feel like I should just never tell anyone because I have everything that I want. And she is like, yes, we're one of the lucky ones, but it has been one of the few failures of my life is getting you to stop.
But what I love also is that she recognizes that they were lucky.
Yeah.
And that's what I love is that it's real in that scene there. It's not Pepper going, we were lucky, don't ruin this. No. It was her going, we were lucky, you can fix it. You
can fix it, and if you don't, are you really going to be able to...
Yeah, and I really love that about Pepper's character, because it gave her that urgency and that little bit of more...
Well, and it showed us her evolution as a character, too, because, like, she literally just said, I've been trying to get you to stop so many times, and this time she doesn't. She never says anything of...
Well, really, she comes into the battle at the end, which I loved that moment, and
But I just appreciated that scene a lot, because it really showed the evolution of how far their relationship has come and how they've both really grown as characters. Yeah. But I also love the scene a little bit before that where the daughter, where Morgan becomes a parrot.
Yeah.
She's like, it's like, that's mommy's term, you can't say that. And then he says it and she's just like it's just such a good father-daughter
I did really
daughter
like that.
moment. I love when he's putting her to bed. Yep. And he's like doing the sweet father thing, and then he's like, "Go to bed, or I'm selling your toys." And she just does. She just knows. That's like, just her dad. Yeah, like, that's just what he does.
I did like that. Obviously, you get the "I love you 3000" line, which
that part was crushing.
Yeah.
And then he goes out, and it's Tony being like, she loves me 3,000. You're about 600 to 900 range, so it's fine.
Their
family dynamic is so cute.
Yeah, there's moments there that I really loved, and you got that time with Tony again. And considering this is his last film, I really loved that.
I did too. I thought it was really, really nice.
And then before Tony comes back into it, we obviously meet Smart Hulk. I love this change. I love Smart Hulk.
I think it's a great way to show his character arc because we have gotten it slowly. It hasn't been an overnight thing, and it gets acknowledged in this film when they travel back. We get to see just how much the change really has been. But we have had Hulk where it's completely two separate entities, where there's Banner and there's Hulk. And then, fast forwarding all the way to Ragnarok, where it's a couple of words. We get a sentence, we get a couple of words. Yes. But in this movie, it's a full-blown mix of the two, which is fantastic.
And I really appreciated that, and I thought they did that very well. The CGI was incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I know that it's had some some people haven't liked it. I thought it was a great character moment, and I thought it was a really interesting change for the character because realistically, in this movie, a non-smart Hulk and a
non-Hulk Banner,
or Bruce Banner, you would have lost a lot.
I think so
and
too.
It wouldn't have been.
And if you didn't go here, you're basically just stunting his character evolution. I don't know where else you could really go if you want the character to continue to evolve.
Exactly.
And actually have some sort of arc. Yeah. So I thought that was handled really well. I really appreciated the scene where they try to do time travel without Tony Stark.
Yeah, that was a little funny, like a little funny bit that I thought was done pretty well. It was good
because it was just that moment of them getting to be a group, trying to figure this out. We get some funny moments of Banner being like, I'm not really sure what's gonna happen, and Natasha's like, you can't say that, that's a joke. And he's like, it's either all a joke or none of it's a joke. I don't even know what's going on. It's time travel. And it's just a fun moment of them getting to be a group working together. And I just love getting to see those scenes because I think they work so well. But then it's also them acknowledging this is time travel. Like, we think we've figured out that this can work, but we have no idea. Like, none of us have any idea of what's going on here. And I think that it is really great that they are still trying to figure out how to do it. And then, of course, we have Tony Stark come in and save the day.
Tony comes in, gives Cap his shield. That was a great moment. Like, it was just a good moment for Cap to get his shield back.
And it was a good Tony Stark moment because he comes speeding in his fancy sports car, drives a little too far, does the backup window down, like Tony Stark character moment, which was perfect. And I love that when he picks up the shield, there's like toys all over the top of it that you clearly can tell that his life has changed. And he gives him the shield and says, keep it quiet, like I don't have presents for everyone.
No, and if you don't use it, Morgan will use it as a bobsled.
Yeah, if I don't get rid of this, Morgan's using it as a sled, so please take it back. Like,
I did, and there was just little moments like that, and I really loved their dynamic.
Oh, me too.
That essentially that all is forgiven. Like, not like all was forgiven at that point of there are greater stakes.
Well, right. And it's also, to me, I think, they're at a point where they've known each other for so long and they've all been through so much and they just know. Like, it's just at a point where they're all at an understanding of, we don't always get along. Stuff has gone wrong over the past 10 whatever years, like, and they're just beyond it at this point. Yeah. Which is, once again, something I appreciate so much because there's only so much of the infighting and the drama and stuff I can take if there are stakes
this big
where you just don't have time for it. The characters should understand by now that you just don't have time for it. I just really appreciated the character work in this movie.
Yeah. So and then from here we get Japan, where we go get Ronan, or Hawkeye / Ronan.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I did really like it was a good little scene, like, to show his development and what he's become. Yeah. If there was a scene where he'd be like, "This is a bathroom break," sure. Like, this is your last chance.
That is probably, I would say, the only chance you have because
to me, personally, for me, is the restaurant scene beforehand.
Yeah, but, I know you're not a huge fan of the whole
That's where I went to the bathroom.
But that one you could, and you wouldn't really miss too much because you already know that Hawkeye has lost everything at this point. You know earlier from the scene with Natasha talking to Rhodey about
that he is killing people. He is a straight up vigilante.
That he's gone to vigilante justice because he has nothing left. So if you really needed to, you wouldn't miss much. I think it was a nice touching moment though between the two of them of him being like, please don't give me hope at this point, and her being like, I'm sorry I couldn't give it to you sooner, but you really need to come back. Like, we really think we could do this. Yeah. And I thought it was a nice moment to bring him back into it and really get to see them reunite because they've had a fantastic friendship as well. And it's that little brick of getting the team back together.
Yeah, and then we see Hulk and Rocket go to New Asgard.
When the sign popped up and said New Asgard, I started laughing so hard.
Yeah, that was a really great moment. Then we see Valkyrie's just like, nope.
It's like, you're so funny if you think he's gonna see you.
This is not gonna end well. And funny enough, he was fine seeing them. He was just like,
he was good with it.
I'm happy to see you guys. And then they said Thanos.
And he was like, hey, you dare say. And freaking Korg was like, we don't say that name in this house, actually. I was so way too happy when I saw that Korg survived. Yes. That was like one of my... Korg and Meek were there playing Fortnite. Yeah. Like, it was hilarious.
But obviously we now have Dad Bod Thor.
Which, to many people's happiness, they can now go for, Halloween, Comic-Con.
I can be Thor. Like, I can be Thor and I can actually say, I am Thor. I just really don't want to do that.
Yeah, I know. But I would like to address something that I've been seeing while we're talking about this. Just because it's kind of been bothering me a little bit. And there are comedic moments around Thor in this movie, as there always have been, especially in Ragnarok and the later movies. And I have been seeing comments of people saying that basically his part in this movie is just a fat joke. Is that it's being used for laughs. And I couldn't possibly disagree more. No. Because as soon as I saw it, I laughed because I was surprised and not expecting it. But to me, it was not funny. To me, it was extremely devastating to see that. Because you see that he has just completely let himself go in a way where he doesn't care about anything. He has completely locked himself away from the world. He's trying to lose himself in video games. He's trying to numb things by drinking all the time. And to me, I thought that was such a clever decision and a important arc to put Thor in this movie, because in Infinity War, we saw a Thor that I have never seen before, where he has lost literally everything. His planet is gone, his mom is gone, his dad is gone, his brother is gone, like his people, for the most part, are gone. And he hit a level where he just has nothing, and he doesn't have a direction, and he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. And then he blames himself for not killing Thanos, for not going for the head and being the one to feel like he failed. And he says that in this movie, and I think that by trying to say this movie reduces him to a joke is completely missing the point of his character in this movie, because to me that was one of the most tragic things that we could see, is where he's just at a point where he's constantly having a breakdown. And I thought it was so important to see when he is there and he's having panic attacks, and he's there and he can't focus because he is getting distracted by when they're all trying to talk about the Infinity Stones, and he just is like, oh, this was my ex-girlfriend, and my mother was there, and he just can't handle it. And I thought it was such a beautiful thing to do.
I really loved... I thought the decision of what they did with Thor was unexpected, but worked in the film. I thought, like, where we were sitting there, and I said in the spoiler review last year, I am fascinated by Thor 4.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I wanted Thor 4 because the reason, like, to go, all right, let's explore. Where does Thor go from here? 5 years later... that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
And to me, that made sense for the character. That made sense for where he would be mentally, of just not caring at all about anything.
Well, and even in a world like the world we live in, even without Thanos stakes, life can do that to you. You can get depressed to a point where you just don't care, and you drink and you don't take care of yourself. And I think it was another way of really grounding the movie in something that a lot of people can relate to. And the thing that I thought was funny about it was he's constantly wearing sunglasses.
Yes.
To me, that was hilarious, because that is just such a look. The sunglasses part was hilarious, and I thought it was funny that he had sunglasses on when they're all trying to talk, so you can't tell if he's asleep, you can't tell if he's paying attention. It was that stuff to me that was funny. It wasn't that he had let himself go and that it was a fat joke. It was, that's actually kind of funny that he's hiding behind sunglasses, because that's totally something I would do.
So obviously, we then get from there, I'm trying to think who else we had to go recruit. I don't think there was anyone else.
I don't think so. From there, we go...
I think from there we go, okay, where did from there we get Hawkeye going back and testing.
We get them testing out the quantum suits.
Great scene. Hawkeye seeing his family again, like, all trying to...
Well, he hears them.
He hears his family again. And then...
And brings back the glove.
Brings back the glove, so we know it works. They discuss...
Where each team is going.
Where is each team going?
I liked, one of my favorite moments actually was when Natasha was the only one to realize that there were 3 stones in New York.
They went, wait, what?
She's like, if we pick the right year, there are 3 of them in New York, and they're just like...
I did love that. I thought that was a really good moment. And then, everyone's got their mission. Everyone's got their assignment. I liked when Tony says, my job is we bring everyone back to today.
But I cannot lose what I've gotten.
And I really love that. And I noticed it the second time where he says, "I'd prefer not to die doing it," and that was. I did really like that, because obviously, that's what he would be like.
You'd be like, I'd really like to keep everything that I have, including my life. That would be nice.
And then
one of the most heartbreaking lines to me that you don't notice until you see it a second time, because you can't notice it until you see it a second time. They're all on the pad to go to their, locations, and Natasha looks at them and says, "See you in a minute." And that destroyed me the second time I saw the movie, because she's the only one that doesn't... Technically, she's the only one that doesn't come back. No. Nebula doesn't come back, but she does come back.
Yes.
But she's the only one that doesn't show up back on the pad. And when you watch that again, knowing that... that one.
So... Tony, Steve, Ant-Man, and Bruce all go to New York.
Natasha and Clint go to Vormir.
And
War Machine and Nebula go to Morag, where Peter's gonna be.
Yeah, and then Thor and Rocket go back to Asgard.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the way they did the time heist was really well and really clever.
I thought so too.
Thought really well.
I really liked it.
Seeing I liked how when they get to New York, it starts with the shot.
With the shot.
Ugh. It's really, really, really weird seeing that shot without the music.
I didn't think it was.
To me it was, because I have seen that shot so many times with the music. It was just weird.
I get that, but to me it was really cool to see it in a different way, where you see it, but then they pan over.
Yeah.
And it's the other version of them standing there. And we get a great little moment with Hulk.
Yep, where he's like, "I'm pretending."
Well, we see the other Hulk come and just have this tantrum where he's just smashing things way more than they need to be smashed, and he's just angry. And Bruce is just like, "Oh, that was me." And then he kind of reluctantly rips his shirt off and is like, "This is okay, whatever," and is kind of trying to smash things, and you can tell he's just over it, which is the moment I was talking about earlier, where you really see how far we've come with Hulk since that movie. And then we really get some cool shots of the stuff that we didn't get to see.
Yeah, and that's what I really liked, because, I mean, obviously in 2012 when they released the Avengers, you weren't going to show all that stuff. No. But I liked that we got to see the behind the scenes of Hydra taking the spear, Hydra trying to get the Tesseract, but they never were going to.
Well, and I loved Scott where he's like, "They look like bad guys. How did you guys look? What are you doing?"
I think Scott is very much this movie's our representation in this movie.
He's totally the us of the movie, where we would just be like, "What were you guys thinking?" Yeah. But it was really, really cool, because you're right. In a movie like the original Avengers movie, you're never going to see what happens after the battle, in terms of we're handing this stuff over to the feds, and now we're going to get a drink at the bar, and then we're going to fight over who has the rights.
I did love the mention of we're going to go get some we're going to go get some food after this. I did like that.
But and then obviously we see them go downstairs, and things don't quite go as planned.
They give Tony a heart attack. I did like that moment. They give Tony a heart attack.
And Thor's like, "I don't know if this is going to work." That was good.
There was the moments like that I thought really worked well.
And it gave us that reason of, oh crap, we messed this up, and we only have one chance.
Loki gets the Tesseract and disappears. Look, that to me is okay. If you're going to do the Loki TV series, that's how you do it. Because
otherwise you would have to do it after he first disappears from Asgard, I think.
Either that, or you do it where he's not. Yeah. Where everyone thinks he's the hero.
But I think that's a good way to do it.
I do too.
He disappears with it, and you're in that technically you could do the alternate timeline that never actually existed.
Yeah.
Because they go back and then it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But that's still a cool place to
start
the
and
TV show from.
And that's where it is, and it's okay, this won't we can still do a Loki TV series with Tom Hiddleston that won't mess canonically with the series. So if we want to go nuts, we can. To me,
but I did like that. I think that's a good way for them to have messed it up. That's really the only place you can mess it up. Yeah. And then have the excuse to do what they do to fix it. But before we get into that, I really like the scene with the Ancient One and Bruce. Yes,
Bruce and the Ancient One, and I thought that scene there was the perfect visual representation of how time travel works in this movie. Yeah. Of, if you take this stone, you create a new reality. That branches off. You might fix your reality.
But this
essentially, to me, it's essentially, we're not creating... It's the multiverse. Yeah. That's essentially what they're doing.
That's basically the theory.
Yeah, we're making new multiverses, and they're jumping between multiverses. Yeah. Essentially, that's...
Because if you take... all the stones are in this universe here, and if you start taking them, you branch off into these separate universes.
Yeah, and that's...
But if you bring the stones back to that same point in time, then those branched off universes don't happen.
Yeah. And that to me was, okay, that's how you've done this. And also that dialogue. You and I were talking. We were both convinced that the Ancient One was going to not give Stephen Strange make him the Sorcerer Supreme.
She is very adamant when she's explaining that you cannot take the time stone from where it is, because that would mess everything up. And when he says Stephen Strange gave it away, and she says willingly, and he says yes,
and then she says, I made a mistake.
And I was like, oh no.
Yeah,
no.
you just did that.
But
and
I'm glad they didn't.
And I thought that was a really cool moment of, okay, that's what Stephen Strange, that's how much Stephen Strange trusted him. I thought that was brilliant, and I loved it. Where she's like, I'm
counting on you, Bruce.
Yeah, I really loved that moment, and I thought they did that well. The recreation of the elevator scene was really well done.
One of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, and
was Cap.
Yeah.
Cap versus Cap.
Yeah, that was
where
great.
He's like, I found Loki, and Cap's like, Christ.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done. Obviously, America's ass.
Ass.
Oh my god.
You frickin' bet, dude.
That was, the recreation of the elevator scene beforehand, where he then whispers Hail Hydra.
Like,
I thought
Hail Hydra.
That was brilliant.
Good.
That was absolutely brilliant, and I thought that worked so well.
I love the line from the fight when he's fighting himself, when the original version is like, I can do this all day, and he's like, yeah, okay.
That's cool, and again, that just shows the growth
that
he's had in 6 years.
I loved the moments in this movie where we really got to see character growth from so many of the characters that we've known for such a long time.
And then we go to Asgard. One of the most wonderful scenes in this entire movie is Thor talking to his mother.
Oh my god.
It's really handled well.
She is the best.
Yeah.
In that scene where she's like, I grew up with witches. You sit down and tell me what's going on.
Yeah, and I like that her basically, she was just like, you're from the future. Okay. Cool.
Let's move on. What's the problem?
No, and it was more her just giving him motherly advice, and I really loved that moment. Yeah. Noticing it both times. I don't think Natalie Portman actually shot anything for this movie.
Freaking way she actually showed up.
She is in 3 seconds.
I think that if they actually would have gotten her for this movie, you would have seen her interact with Rocket.
Yes.
There's no way that if she actually showed up to shoot this movie.
Yeah. And so, I mean, look, I'm happy to be proven wrong. But
if she did, I would just be really surprised.
To me, I'm shocked that, hey, we got Natalie Portman and we literally put her in a 3 seconds that we could have gotten from archival footage.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It just wouldn't make sense with how much they didn't use her. But I thought that it was just such a special moment for Thor, especially in the place that he's in mentally, where he just feels like he has nothing. He feels like he's failed. And she sits down and says, yeah, you failed. Welcome to being a person that's alive. Everyone does that. Everyone fails at something. And she tells him, don't be so worried about trying to be who you're meant to be and focus on being who you are, who you're going to be. And it's just such a nice moment that, you feel like we were almost robbed of before because he just didn't get to have those moments with his mother. And it was really, really, really great. Yeah.
I love his recognition that I'm still worthy. Yeah. And that was great. That was a really good moment where he was just like, no, I'm still, the hammer still, I can still lift it and I'm still worthy.
That was a great moment.
I thought that was a really, really sweet moment in terms of his, for him that, no matter, like, him recognizing I have become someone different, but I am still worthy of this. Yeah. And I did like that. Then we go back. We go way back. We go back to the 70s to get the Tesseract again.
Which, there were so many emotional moments in this. So we go back and we see a really, really young Hank Pym.
Yes.
With that hair.
Yes. Good CGI too, again. Yeah, oh my God, they are really good with this really de-aging scary. Now, and it's getting scary.
We get to see that, which I thought was hilarious, where Steve calls him and is like, they opened the glowing package. You should probably get down here.
You what? Yeah. And from there, it's funny. From there, because he grabbed 4 vials. Yeah. That's where I thought that's how they'll do it. But obviously,
we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Then Tony gets to have a conversation with his dad. I thought that was very well done. Yeah. It worked. It was a really nice moment to sit there and actually be able to see Tony have a conversation with his dad and basically reassure his dad, hey, you're all going to be okay. Which
I thought was brilliant, where he has already had a kid and he's able to talk to his dad and have a parent-to-parent conversation that he's never going to get to have in his own timeline.
Yeah, and I thought that was really well done. And I mean, we've seen this over the course of the films where he's like, I thought my dad was hard on me, but realistically he was just, he loved me. And I did really like that moment. I thought that worked really well.
I finally got a moment that I never thought I was going to get. We got our little Agent Carter TV show cameo that I was I think I was like one of 2 people in the whole theater that was like, oh my God, that's the other Jarvis! They put the other Jarvis in the movie!
Yep. So,
oh my God, that was, he has like one line.
Yes.
But I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I thought that was really
so
good.
Excited that they actually acknowledged that the TV show existed outside of just Peggy.
Yes.
That was such a cool moment for people who loved that TV show. Oh.
I thought that was that was good. That was cool. I'm not gonna lie, that was really good.
And it was a good way to still be able to have a Jarvis in his father's time.
Yeah. And it made sense. And that's the thing with me is like it all made sense. He's there. Yeah, of course he would.
Of course he would be there. And you get to call back to the TV show where you don't confuse people by having Paul Bettany or something like that.
But to me, it's also, like it's not a distraction.
No.
This is to me where I'm okay, like those sort of cameos or Easter eggs. I love because
they make sense. They work.
as long as they're not distractions. Whereas I think if you do something like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or stuff,
that's a little bit of a distraction.
Well, it's because also Coulson. Like you've got
I know.
You've got to explain it.
That one was a genuine Easter egg. Yeah, where it's a nice little thing that doesn't detract from.
And if you've never watched the show, you don't know.
You don't notice it, and it doesn't bother you. And it's fine, which I thought was great. But then we get to the moment that we all knew was going to come because they traveled back.
Yep.
And it happens by accident on Cap's part. He's trying to hide from these people who've realized that he's not supposed to be there. And he goes into a random office and sees a picture of himself on the desk. Which is, I think, the perfect way to do that. And he turns around and you see Margaret Carter on the door. And you're like, of course, that's the office that he would stumble into.
I thought that was genuinely sweet. I really did love that.
And then he sees her through the window.
Yeah, and that's the moment he went, okay, I have to stay.
Yeah, I think that's the moment he realized, I can legitimately travel back, and she's here, and I can do this. And you can see it on his face, and we'll definitely touch more on that later. But they get what they need to get, and they're done. So then we then go to Morag. Yeah. Where we see where they in that was one of my favorite moments where they follow Peter and we get the opening scene. We get the opening scene again, and I loved it. I thought that was real. Like, we're coming get your love plays again. He's dancing, but we get the real version of what that would look like, where the music cuts and it's just him singing. It's just him dancing and singing, and I loved that moment, and I laughed so hard. So funny, especially when you cut to Rhodey and Nebula reacting they're just to like, it. So he's an idiot. And they're just like, oh my god, this is who we're dealing with. That was perfect. And then we obviously start to realize that, hey, the other Nebula can hack in. Well, and I like the moment of, I feel like in this scene, Rhodey is us, where they're going up to the temple. And he's like, wait a second, there's some Indiana Jones stuff we can't just walk into this temple of the stone and not expect all this crap to happen. Like, I just love moments like that where there are certain characters that react how we would to situations like that. But we do discover, right as they're trying to leave, that the other Nebula can, basically they share a consciousness. Yeah. And the other Nebula basically shows what she's seeing. And to me, that made complete sense. I've seen some people complain, go, "Oh, that's a bit far-fetched." It's like, I don't think so. Sorry, they're sharing a network. Like, it's because she is robotic in ways like she's not. So they share a network. To me, that made complete sense. I thought so too. I thought it was great, and I was not expecting it at all. No, neither was I. I was never expecting that the Thanos we were seeing in trailers and stuff was 2014 Thanos, and I love that. That was such a cool way to do it, especially because he's learning what he will do. Basically, he's realizing that he has reached his goal, and now he is trying to and then he's realizing, I reached my goal, but people haven't accepted it. Right. So now I need to do this, and here I this was the one where we really got to see the genuine Mad Titan. Yeah. Like because in the first film, obviously he was the Mad Titan, but for him it was the heist. Yeah. So he was the one going around and collecting them all, and it was a heist movie for him, and you were seeing him obviously do very diabolical acts. Right. But you never got the sense of the absolute madness and completely just psychotic side of him. No. This one we started to. And a little bit. We got to see more of the psychotic and the crazy and this guy is nuts. And I think that I think it was a great way for them to interject 2014 Thanos into the present or into the future for him by switching nebulas. Yes. By sending the wrong one back. Yeah, and that worked well, and I never had a complaint. No. I thought that was all really handled well. Then we go to the Soul Stone. Yeah. This destroyed me. Which, once you realize that those two are going there... and it's one thing where you're sitting there going, oh no. Yeah. Because, it's the old thing. Show a bomb under the table, it's gonna go off. Yeah. We got shown the bomb. Yeah. So we all knew it was gonna happen. We just didn't know who it was gonna be. Well, we didn't know. Well, and you don't really even know. Going into it, you don't even know if they're gonna do it. You don't even really know what's gonna happen. Yeah. And they go, and it gets explained. And then we get a little bit of a jump of them sitting there trying to figure out what they're going to do. Yeah. Because he's not convinced that you have to do that. And she says, no, like, Thanos left here without his daughter with the stone. Like, that's how it works. That makes
sense, yeah.
And then we get that moment of them saying, well, I both think we know who it has to be. Yeah. And then he's like, I think we mean different people now. I'm starting to think that we're not in agreement here of who it's going to be. And it is a beautiful and heartbreaking scene of them trying to stun each other enough to be the person to do it. Yeah. They're not trying to hurt each other. They're just trying to keep the other person from being the sacrifice, which I think is so true to what their friendship has always been. Yeah. And they're both trying to find, like, no, I should do it because this. And the other person's, well, no, I should do it because this. And they're both just so unwilling to let it be the other person. Yeah. And it's at a point where while this is happening, you actually have no idea who it's going to be.
I was sitting there going, which one, like, it's going to, like, who is going to be, like, I mean, looking back, it makes much more sense for Scarlett Johansson.
Well, as I was watching it, I knew that it made more sense for it to be her. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it was going to happen that way, just because you just don't know. You just have no idea what's going to happen, especially since we kind of all knew going into this movie that it was going to be the last for both of them, most likely, because they don't really have much more that they can do in terms of character arcs and story arcs and things like that. So to me, it was like, it could really be a toss-up here because they're not characters that I see really moving forward, especially, But so that was really heartbreaking for me because even though her arc, I feel like, was completed and there wasn't really much more for her to do, it was still really, really sad to see. It was really hard to see that.
And it was tough.
It was really tough to watch, especially when you see the grief on his face when he realizes that, and then when he wakes up with the stone. One of the most heartbreaking moments for me was when they all show up back on the platform and they're looking around and they realize that only he has come back.
I like the first, like, we did it, like, oh my god, we did it.
And then they see that she's not there.
And then they have they have the funeral of. I like that it was only the original Avengers there. It wasn't anyone else. It was just the original. Their little group. And I did really like that. And then Thor being told, you need to accept this. And that was a good little moment. And then the Hulk being the one, like, they make the gauntlet. And
they're like, I like that they have the discussion of who does it, and I like the reasoning. And Hulk is like, it's mostly gamma radiation, so if anyone's gonna do this, it has to be me to do it. And we see just how much of an effect it even has on him, which is insane.
I mean, there is an argument where Thor might have. Maybe.
It's possible.
Maybe.
It's possible. We don't know. No. We don't know exactly who would be best suited to do it. But Hulk's argument made sense. What Banner was saying made sense. And Thor didn't really have an argument that made more sense.
No, exactly.
So I get that.
And I like the idea of you can't because your headspace
is just not there. We need someone who can mentally handle this right now because you have to focus on what we need to do. And they do it.
Yep. They think they've done it. And that's
I'm saying they snap.
Oh, they snap. They snap.
Like, they do the thing.
Yep.
And then they don't know if it works. They don't actually know what happened.
I like how Ant-Man's the one who walks out and he starts seeing more birds. And he went, I think this worked.
And then you see Hawkeye's phone go off.
Hawkeye's phone starts to go off. And then boom.
And then we while that's happening simultaneously, we get the scene of Nebula going to open the quantum portal, basically. And then we hear the boom and we see the compound kind of crushed. And that's when all the chaos breaks out of what just happened.
Yes. And from there
from that point on, it just becomes this incredible masterpiece of a movie to me.
Well, I think the last hour is I mean, to me, the last hour is the strongest hour, but not by a lot.
I don't think any of it's weak by any means. Yeah. And I really think overall it's a very strong movie throughout. But to me, the last act of the movie is the gut punch. Like,
yeah, it is. It's the moment where it's the reason why you make Endgame.
Right.
It's like, all right, this is why it took 11 years.
Yeah.
You don't do this. Film 2.
No, because you don't get the same kind of payoff, and it just doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
So we get all this chaos of all of a sudden Banner and Rhodey and Rocket are in this one area, trapped here, and then Hawkeye is over here with the gauntlet, and then we've got
Ant-Man
Thor,
trying to go down and get it,
trying to get down to them, and we've got Thor and Cap and Iron Man up at the top trying to figure out what just happened up there.
And then they're like, all right, there he is.
And they're like, Thor, what has he been doing?
Yeah.
Literally, he's been doing nothing but sitting there.
Yeah. This is the moment where, and then so Thor goes, I'm back, and he gets his...
And he's ready to go.
Yeah, and I like that moment. Look, I've got a personal thing where where to me it would have been cool if when he did the lightning. I'm glad they didn't make him thin.
No,
that would have been such a cheap. It would have, and it would have. To me, it wouldn't have worked. I like that he still stayed dad bod Thor.
Yeah.
I just personally would have had in the lightning moment his hair gets singed off or something.
I thought it was a good touch that in the lightning moment his hair braids itself.
Yeah, and I see. It's funny. I noticed that in the second time.
Okay,
like I didn't notice that the first time. So the second time I noticed it, and I went, okay, that's a little better. Like it did something with it. Yeah. But to me, I just would have liked them to have gone to all right. He's, it would have been a kind of like a visual representation of he's changing. Like
I get that, but to an extent, I just feel like to me anything physically happening to him that way is just kind of a cheap I don't know. To me, I just feel like that would cheapen it, and I was completely good with that. So we get that moment, and we basically get all of them trying to scramble to figure out what happened. Yeah. And down below, we've got Hawkeye realizing that there's these weird alien creatures coming for him. We've got the poor ones at the bottom drowning, basically, trying not to
Ant-Man
drown.
going to try and save them.
That going on, and then we've got a 3-on-1 up at the top battle going on.
I thought that was really well handled. You got to see... I liked how you got to see Iron Man using technology that he had clearly built for Infinity War, but never got to use because Thor was never there.
Yeah.
So I really like that we got to see that. We really got to see the strength of Thanos. Just how strong he actually is. That was really cool. And then we get the moment
the moment that literally made me start crying, because I never, ever thought we would actually get to see it, even though it's been hinted at before.
And that was incredible.
When we see the hammer move, and it flies to Captain America. We see Steve wield it, and then it cuts to Thor, and he goes, I knew it.
I love that.
Such a special moment.
That was incredible.
That's a moment I never would have anticipated. It was a complete surprise, and it was something to me that... It really touched on, once again, Captain America as a character. And it really touched on the character development of Thor. Because when Cap tries to do it in Ultron and almost does it, you can see Thor was
freaking out.
Like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. In this movie, he was like,
yes!
I knew it! Which was such a great moment. And then we get to see him use the hammer and the shield. Oh,
that was great,
God.
And I love that, but I really loved it wasn't enough.
No, it still
and
wasn't
I
enough.
really, and I love that, and I love that we actually get the shot. Like, when Thor's blade actually goes into the shield, I was like, holy... I squealed. Like, I was like, oh this is bad.
Yeah.
And he splits the shield in half.
I love the moment that we get back up in the ship between Nebula
Nebula and Gamora.
Where we still see that even with everything happening, this timeline version of Gamora is the one that we know. Yes. Where she's always been that.
She had already, like, at that point in the film, she had
already, like...
betrayed him, essentially, because she was going to go to Ronan, like, she was going to steal it off Ronan. Yeah. But she isn't there yet. Right. Like, in terms of revealing that, basically, yeah.
But she's still at that point where she can clearly see what's going on. Yeah. And she sees this opportunity. And she says, all right, come on, we can stop this. Let's go do this. And then they appear down with Hawkeye. Yep.
I like that modern day Nebula just shot.
Yeah, she didn't hesitate.
Didn't hesitate, just shot her and went, I ain't dealing with this.
Like there are things that are more important to deal with right now. And if it's her or me, it's her. Yeah, and I did really love that moment. And I liked Gamora's like reaction of sadness, but of sadness, but also like confusion because she still had her sister technically, and it was this thing that she doesn't even know how to process.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a whole, like, obviously that version of Gamora hasn't been there through everything to know what's going on.
Then we get basically Hot Potato with a Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah. Hawkeye just trying to run the gauntlet somewhere. Yeah. And then the shield splits.
We get this incredible scene of all of these ships that Thanos has, just this entire army,
and him just revealing, saying, "I hate this planet. This annoying."
Him saying it was never personal.
Yep.
But this planet.
Yep.
Now it's
I'm going to enjoy this.
I'm going to love this now, which I thought was great.
It was a really good moment for Thanos because it shows again that, and he has never taken joy out of doing any of this. It's just to him, it's been a necessity. Yeah. Yeah. This time you could see, this was anger and he wanted to do this. Yeah.
But then you get that wide shot that I think is beautiful. You see this insane army.
Terrifying.
And then you see lone little Cap basically just standing.
Yep. And you get tightening his shield. And you get the trailer shot of him tightening the shield. Like, that was perfect. Yeah. And then on your left.
And then you hear just the crackling little on your left. And you see Chris Evans' face, like his acting in that moment, where his face is, there are so many emotions. Yeah. He's hopeful but confused and also just like hesitantly joyful. Like you just see so many emotions on his face. And it's just a moment of silence, basically. And then
Black Panther walks through.
You see the thing slowly start to appear, and you see Black Panther. And in that moment, I'm gonna start crying now just thinking about it, because that was
it. It was perfect. That whole moment was perfect. Yeah. It was 11 years of build up, and it paid off. And it was...
You get the whole Wakandan army. Yeah. And then you slowly start to see other circles appearing with... You see Sam fly through, and you slowly start to see everyone come back.
Like, everyone comes back.
The Guardians come back, Stephen Strange, everyone. And you just slowly see the entire side fill up with all of these people. Yeah. And it was one of the most breathtaking moments I've ever seen. And then they make it even better.
With having Cap actually say it.
He stands there. He calls the hammer to him. He says, Avengers. Bang. Calls the hammer to him. Assemble. And that I freaking lost it. I was sobbing. I was sobbing.
I wept. Like, I was destroyed of just pure glee. Yep. It was just... beautiful and perfect and amazing,
that moment is everything I could have possibly hoped for.
And it to me is it is hands down one of the best shots ever in a Marvel film.
Oh, like 100%.
It was, but it's one of those moments where you do not get to do this film 2 or 3. No. This is 11 years. That's
the only way that hits you like
exactly. This is build up and payoff. And that's what I loved so much about it, was that moment hits you because again, the music also really helps. The music was really great. Like, I paid particular attention to it the second time viewing, because I wanted to see what was it about that moment that had such an impact, other than just the fact that it's been 11 years. Yeah. I wanted to know, because I wanted to know why people like my sister and them were getting impacted when they, they're not the biggest Marvel heads. And I'm just sitting there going, the music plays, it's that moment of your body is told, or your brain is told, this is a scene. Yeah. This is it.
Yeah, and I think that it is just, I just think it's a moment that, even without the music, people who aren't as big into Marvel, you still just realize what that moment means. Because if you're even a casual viewer, you know who Cap is. Yeah. You know what that hammer means. Yeah. You know that all of these people being together, even if you've only seen Infinity War, you know what that means. And for people like you and me, who our favorite Marvel movie is the first Avenger, whose favorite character is Captain America, and who've had this journey with this character since the very beginning, that moment to me, I'm seriously going to start crying just talking about this. That moment to me was just, it was just everything. It was just this whole journey with Cap, and with everything he's gone through and everything that he has sacrificed, and all of those times that he's just had to say, it would be easier to not do this, and it would be easier to just be able to move on, like everyone is saying, and get a life and do all this stuff. And he's always been there, getting back up again, having freaking half of a shield left, just like,
stuff it.
Just having that, I could do this all day, I will get back up every single time. It was just that moment of, if there was a character who was gonna do that, it had to be Captain America.
And that's why I just love that moment. Then we get the Battle of All Battles.
Well, we get the we get the Battle of All Battles, but then we get the real hot potato.
We get the Battle of All Battles, and then everyone starts playing hot potato.
We've got Black Panther taking the gauntlet, and then it goes to
Spider-Man. Spider-Man gets it,
and it just goes.
Valkyrie saves him. Like it goes everywhere.
It's we got Pepper who helps out. It's just this insane moment of realizing, even after that big hero shot, just realizing how many people are actually a part of this and working as a team. And it's just so great the way that they do it. And in the middle of all this craziness, we get that moment of Peter Parker and Tony getting their little reunion. And that just freaking destroyed me.
That was awesome.
Like, I was already crying, but then I was just crying.
That was even better. He came up, gave him a hug. Like, I really loved that.
And, well, to me, it was... Tony was the one that was emotional, because Peter was like, oh, it felt like I passed out for a second, and then Doctor Strange said it had been 5 years, and we gotta go. And he's just rambling, and then Tony just takes that moment to give him a hug, and Peter's just like, oh, this is nice. Like, he doesn't have that same grasp of what happened, because for him, it probably felt like seconds that he was gone. So that was just a really, really special moment. And so we've got this whole battle going on. They're trying to figure out what even to do at this point, and then we figure out that
no, sorry, you go.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. We figure out, oh crap, what are we gonna do, because there's no portal left. The portal has been destroyed. And then they're like, well, there's a portal, but I don't really think you're gonna like what the option is. And they have the van still. That's their portal. And then
Thanos orders, fire everything. I don't care about
firing. He doesn't care if it injures people on his side. He's just like, go crazy. Like, we gotta do this. And then our favorite Space Avenger.
That was a great moment. That was just an awesome moment of she just flies in, and I really love the way they essentially handled Captain Marvel, where you couldn't have her in the going back in time because she's just too powerful. Like it wouldn't. She could have just gone like, all right, I'm gonna go get that one. I can fly off to space and go get the other ones.
For storytelling, it doesn't make sense to have her there. And they were able to really find a way for her not to be there. Because in her mind, it's her job to take care of the rest of the galaxy that the Avengers can't take care of. She knows there are so many planets out there that are dealing with, and she says it. She says, there are so many planets. Every planet out there is dealing with what Earth is dealing with. And they don't have people like you to help them deal with it. Yeah. And so she's like, you won't see me for a long time. No. Because she could be millions of light years away. Yeah.
So I really like that she came back. Destroys the ship.
It's gone.
And
then she goes to find poor Peter just like in fetal position and is like, I hear you have something for me.
All yours.
Here you go. Take the
So I like that.
And then we get one of my favorite shots ever because they're like, I don't know how you're going to do this, but there you go. Yeah. And then all of the ladies show up and say, don't worry, she's got help. And you just get this great shot of all of the badass ladies that are up in there. And you just get their action shot of them just going for it, which I loved so much.
It worked really well. I thought it was it was just a great shot. And
it was.
It was just that great moment of, it was just a really great moment of, let's just go crazy with it all.
Oh,
and that's what I loved.
Well, it was that, and it was also a great moment of, like, look how far we've come. We have this insane team now because, you know, in the first Avengers movie, it was the Avengers. It was the one woman. It was Black Widow. That's all we had. Yeah. And then now we get this shot of we've expanded so much, and there are so many different kinds of female characters and so many different strengths and so many different backgrounds, and it was just a really cool moment to get to have.
I did really love that. And then, you know, I mean, there is so many little interactions that we don't have time to talk about. Well, there were so many.
One of my favorites was with Wanda and Thanos.
Yeah, that was a really cool moment.
That was a good moment when she's like, you took everything from me.
I don't even know you.
She's like, oh, you will, don't worry.
Like, and I like how she was nearly powerful enough. Like
she was almost there.
She was almost there to beat him.
And that was right before he orders the fire. That's why he's like, screw it, fire on everything, because otherwise I'm screwed.
Yeah. I like, and then when Tony goes up to Doctor Strange and says, was this the one? And he says, if I tell you, it won't be.
Like,
and I did like that because it clearly means that if Tony knew, he might not have done it.
He might not have done it, right.
And that's which
when you look back on it after you figure out how they do it, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I love how we get to the point of he basically has the stones on again. Yeah. He has the glove on, and Captain Marvel is almost there but can't quite do it on her own, and you have all these people trying to do it, and then you do have Tony saying, he doesn't even say anything. He just looks at Stephen Strange, and then Strange is like,
This is it. Yeah.
And then you knew that was the moment that he had seen. I have to tell him now if this is gonna work.
Yeah.
And then we get that moment of Iron Man flying up to him and taking the stones and turning his own hand into the Infinity Gauntlet. And you get that moment, and this is one of my favorite little touches that they do, is his words are, I am Iron Man. And that's where this all started.
Yeah,
that's where this all started.
Yeah.
And that's what we get, and we get that happening, and then you realize what that means.
Yeah. So all of Thanos' armies dust.
I thought that was such a crazy moment of, you see all of his army getting dusted, but then he sits down. It takes a moment to sink in, and then he is gone.
Yeah. And I thought that was really well done. I really loved that. Like, I did too. And then Tony's on, and Tony is...
You can tell half of his body's really badly singed.
Yep.
That he really took a hit from having all of that go through his body. And you get that moment with Peter that, once again, if I wasn't already crying, I'd be crying again.
Yep.
And you have that moment of Peter saying, you know, we did it, like... just panicking, not really knowing what to do, and you just... One of the best little touches was Pepper just very gently, very calmly.
Yeah.
Like, all right, it's going to be okay. Yeah. And then she has to sit there and tell him it's going to be okay when she very much knows that it is not going to be okay.
And I thought that was really well done. The ending of this movie worked perfectly for me. And
it worked for me too. Well, especially that moment when you see Pepper just kind of lean against him because she knows that he's gone, and then it flashes over to Cap and Thor. Yeah. And they just... Yeah. They're just destroyed. Like, you just... It's... And then, you know, it fades out and we see everyone at their house. Yep,
we get the last little message from him, which I thought was really nice. Like, it was a good little... It was a good way to be like, that's the end of Iron Man. Yeah. The shot that to me had huge impact is once they put, like, you know, the proof that Tony Stark had a heart on the lake, and then it showed everyone. Yeah. And, though I do love how it ended on Fury, and
yeah,
it ended
that's the
there.
First time we see him back.
Yeah, and that to me it was just this.
And then the other scene that broke my heart was with Happy.
Yeah,
and Morgan.
I want a cheeseburger.
She says that. And he has to stop himself for a minute because he goes to reply, and then you see him having to compose himself. And it's just like, it was such a nice little callback moment, especially when we rewatched the first Iron Man recently. Yeah. Where it was really, like, hard hitting. And then
from there we get basically the final...
we get them taking back the...
Well, we get Thor giving away his kingdom.
Oh yeah, that is. So he gives up his kingship to Valkyrie,
which I really liked.
Which I thought was great, actually.
And we get. Okay, I feel like if this movie did a post-credit scene, that was the post-credit scene.
Which one?
Thor on the ship.
With Guardians?
I think that would have been the post-credit scene if they did it, because
it feels the most post-credit.
It does,
but it was a great scene.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was
so
perfect.
Good.
It was, and I am waiting now with bated breath the day they announce Chris Hemsworth is in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. He has to be. Like absolutely has to be.
And we talked about this too the other day. Like, you and I are super betting that he was a huge voice of the whole James Gunn
I want to work with Gunn. Yeah. So,
But that'll be really interesting to see, because if that is what's going to happen and he's going to join them, that's going to make the dynamics of the Guardians really interesting to explore in this next movie. Yes. So I'm waiting for that. And then
before we go off there, I was really looking at it in this second viewing whether or not Gamora was dead.
I know you and I were both trying to look at that because some people have said she's definitely still there and they are going to go try and find her. Yep. But for me, and I'm not saying this is absolutely what happened, but to me, I just assumed that since she was part of the other timeline, she got dusted.
See, that's what I thought too. I mean,
I have no idea. It could be either.
Yeah, and I'm happy with either. Like, to me, it makes sense either way. But for me, we were saying this the other day, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is very much going to be the search for Spock.
Searching for Spock, yeah.
Like, the search for Spock of that series of, okay, we need to try and find Gamora.
Yeah.
Whether or not it is 2014 Gamora or 2018's Gamora. Yeah. One or the other, if they try and find a way to bring her back.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, going to be one of the big themes of that movie for sure. But it'll be interesting because it really... It could be that she is gone, but obviously they're not going to give up looking for her. She was dusted, but they don't believe that she was, and they're going to search for her. Or she wasn't, And she is off trying to figure out what she's supposed to do now and who she is and what's going on. So either way, that would be very, very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely... I was already pumped for Guardians 3, but now I'm just
now I'm so curious as to what they're going to do with that film.
Very, very curious. But...
and then...
we get our ending of this movie, which is... what a lot of us predicted was going to happen. Yes. But the fact that we actually got it... was...
okay, so we get Steve goes, I'm going to take all the gems back, and he never returns. And
before he leaves, he talks to Bucky. Yeah. And he goes up to him, and they do the swap of the famous line of, don't do anything stupid till I get back. Yeah. I can't, you're taking all the stupid with you. Yeah. And they do the reverse of it. And then Steve says something like, see you in a minute or see you later or something. Yeah. But Bucky was like, I'm going to miss you. Because he knows. Yeah, he knows. He definitely knows. The second...
And you noticed it the second time.
I noticed it the first time.
I didn't notice it the first time.
No, I noticed it the first time that he says, I'm going to miss you. Yeah. And I'm assuming he always knew it, but then when Cap was very insistent that Sam not come with him, I think that confirmed for Bucky that he was not going to come back. Yeah. Because Sam and Bruce had no idea what he was going to do, but you can tell... by the look on Bucky's face and what he says to him that he knows they're not getting him back.
And then we see old man Steve sitting on the bench. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. I thought the makeup looked really good.
I thought it did too. And I thought it was great that once again Bucky knows. He looks at the bench and he says, guys. Yeah. And then he's like, go.
You go. You go. And I did love that it was Sam. It wasn't Bucky who went over there. Like to me, I really liked it that Sam was the one who walked over because, I liked that he was the one who talked to him. And I like that Bucky basically gave him the acknowledgement of, no, this is you. This is for you. And then Sam goes over, Cap... says, I like that Sam goes, I'm really happy for you. I'm just bummed I don't get to live in a world with Captain America anymore. Yeah,
I thought that was a nice touch. And I really like that I'm someone who always wanted the shield to go to Bucky for a lot of reasons. Mm-hmm. That's always been my first choice. And I was never going to be mad if it was Sam and not Bucky. But to me, I think that... if they're going to go the direction of passing the shield, and it's going to have to be one of them, I think that as a character moving forward, staying the same, the Winter Soldier is more interesting. Yes. Staying the same character. Yeah. To me. Personally, I think he is more interesting if you're going to keep one of them the same. Yeah. And not turn him into Captain America. Yeah. And I also think that... Bucky has been through so much over the course of so many different time periods, but also with Steve, that I just don't think that he would have been able to handle the mantle the way that Sam probably is going to be able to.
Yeah, and I'm very curious as to where they're going to go forward with the Captain America films.
Well, that, and I'm curious if that's going to bleed into what the TV show is. Yeah. Like, if it's going to be he takes on the mantle
in the TV
and he's
series.
Captain America.
Yep. And that I'm very curious about that.
So, because if that's true, that's awesome. Yeah. But then where does that leave the movies?
Yeah. Is the show going to be called... is the show most likely going to be called Captain America and the Winter Soldier? Right. Not Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Right. Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see what direction they go with that. But that was a great moment of Bucky really saying, like, no, this is for you. And Sam taking the shield and being like, this feels like it's somebody else's.
He's just like, it's funny, it's not. Like, I like that. It was such
a good moment.
And then I love when he gives him his hand to, like, shake, and he goes, "You gonna tell me about that?" I said, "No, I don't think I will. I don't think I will.
No, keeping that to myself."
And then it cuts, and we see Steve and Peggy dancing. Yeah. And that was the end of the film.
And I think it was to me, it was such a powerful last shot. And I know that there are some people that have issues with how it ended. And I think we should kind of touch on this now because we really didn't. There are people who have problems with the whole time travel logistics, and I just, like, okay. So I've said before that even in a universe that resembles our own, movie universes follow different rules.
Yes.
Always. They establish their own rules, and in this movie, they very blatantly established how time travel works in their universe. Yeah, they even poked fun at time travel movies to say that's not how it works.
Yes.
So, like, to me, I just don't get how...
Yeah, I don't understand the backlash
that they're backlash.
I've not understood any of it or how people have gone. I don't get it. Because the movie explained... You're clearly not... You're not comprehending the film.
What the movie is saying to you.
Yeah. So
because it's explaining it to you how it works in their universe. And there are things about it that they don't fully explain, but I think it's because they don't fully understand it themselves. Like, they're still working out how a lot of this works.
Cap going back and staying back doesn't affect anything. Like,
it doesn't. No, because he's going back, and then... basically, as they said, if you go back, that your past isn't your past anymore. Like, you're turning it into your new future, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I just, to me, everything worked because they explained it. I followed what they were doing with it, so I thought it worked great, especially since Hulk pretty much said it. Like, either time travel is completely a joke, like all of it is, or none of it is.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously it's an abstract concept for us because we can't time travel. So there's only so much they can actually do to explain how it works when we can't really compare it to how it actually works.
Yeah.
But to me, ending the movie like this was really important to me. Because once again, for Cap, for Steve Rogers, it was the poetic ending to his circle.
Yeah.
Because he started off obviously making the ultimate sacrifice. Was sacrificing the life he knew he could have had with Peggy, being happy, just getting to date and do normal people things. And instead he had to make that moral compass decision of... I have to save everyone, put it in the ice, put it in the water, and I have to make that. And in making that sacrifice, he turned basically his life into a sacrifice.
Yes.
Where he wakes up and all he really knows, because he wakes up so out of time, is he knows what he believes in, and if he can help people, that's what he's going to do. He's going to help people, and he's going to try and make his life matter in that way and do what's good and do what's right. And in doing that, he has had to sacrifice trying to really move on and to really have any sort of life outside of that. And the ending in this movie gives that back to him. Yeah. He gave all of himself to this, and now it's like the universe giving back, basically.
Yeah.
And getting to live that life.
Yeah. I really love the ending, and I thought it worked perfectly for the film that they were telling, and I think that this was really the end of this iteration of the Marvel films.
It is. It's really a moment in film history that we're witnessing now. It's the bookend to this insane, incredible 22 film story.
Yeah. And I've always been saying, for the last couple of months, I've just been saying, we're about to witness one of the most fascinating succession plans in film history of how does a film like this give to the next generation? Like, we're witnessing the passing over of the next set of films. So, like, I'm fascinated by how well Spider-Man does, but I'm more fascinated by how well the next Avengers movie does down the line.
Yeah,
whenever it does happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's really going to be interesting to see how they move on in terms of, you know, we had all of these characters that we had for 10 years, 11 years. And now we basically have to try to do that again. Yeah. But with newer characters that we've only known for a little bit. And we have to try and find that chemistry between how these characters are going to work and what stories we want to tell. And it's just going to be so interesting to watch that unfold and see if it is as successful, but in its own way.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by it, and
that'll be one of the real tests of the superhero fatigue.
Yes, it will actually. It will. Yeah. It will be.
Yeah, so. But it's going to be interesting, and I'm really excited to still get to be a part of this, because this journey has been such a big part of my life, because it started when I was still relatively young, where I've really grown up with it and really it's really influenced a lot of who I am and what I enjoy and like doing stuff like this. So yeah, it's gonna be a part 2 of the journey, I suppose. But seeing as it's like way past our bedtime, and we've been talking for way too long.
Yep.
We're going to cut this off here, but we would love to hear what you guys think of the movie. What were your favorite parts? What made you cry? How many times did you cry? How many times have you seen the movie?
Yeah.
We'd love to hear what you have to say. Please leave your comments below. As always, all of our links to our social media are down in the description, as well as our Patreon link if you want to check that out. Thank you guys so much for all of your support, and we will see you next time.